So, picture this. Your high schooler is ready for more. More challenge, more opportunity, and you're trying to figure out how to give it to them. So, maybe you're a homeschool parent and you're staring down this pre-calculus textbook. You're wondering, well, these squiggles have to do with math anyway. Or maybe you're a high school or a public school parent and you're watching your student breeze through the classes and thinking, well, there's got to be something wrong. So what if I told you your high schooler could be earning real college credit right now? Credits that transfer, credentials that matter, at tuition that won't break the bank. I'm Loy from Online Learning here at Genesee Community College. I have some skin in this game. Both of my kids graduated through GCC's ACE program. My youngest was one of the youngest students ever in the program. So I've been exactly where you're sitting right now, and let's talk about it. Welcome to Study with me. So joining me tonight is Stephanie Rindell. She's an ACE program specialist here at Genesee Community College, and Stephanie works directly with families who are navigating concurrent enrollment, which is the fancy way of saying your high schoolers taking real college courses while they're still in high school. So Stephanie, welcome to the show, and could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at GCC?
Sure, thanks, Loy. So both my daughters also graduated from the ACE program a few years back, and I've been working in the ACE office for a little over 4 years, primarily as the homeschool specialist, but I also manage dual credit programs in 15 area high schools.
Good. I'm really glad we're doing this episode. I think, honestly, there's a lot of confusion out there, I think, about what ACE actually is and who it's for, even among homeschool parents who've been in it for a while. So let's start there. Like, what does ACE stand for, and what is it?
Yeah, so ACE stands for Accelerated College Enrollment. And that's exactly what we do. We help students in high school get a head start on their college careers while they're still in high school through a variety of different programs.
Oh, cool. So it's not just homeschoolers.
Absolutely not. It's again, we work with probably 360 homeschool students, but we have nearly 2,000 students in the brick and mortar high schools taking our courses for GCC credit in over 40 area high schools. They're taught by their own high school teachers who hold the same credentials as our GCC instructors. And a lot of those same students might also take one or two courses online just after school or during their study halls. The homeschoolers, a lot of them will take courses in person, but the vast majority of our homeschoolers are also taking courses online.
Mm. Yeah, they call into the online learning office rather frequently.
Oh yeah, I know they do.
So I guess that's a much bigger tent than people realize when they think about ACE. So parents of public school students and might be listening to this thinking, oh, this is not for me, but it might actually be for you if your public school student is just not challenged, not sufficiently challenged by what they're dealing with in the high school, or maybe their high school doesn't offer those classes. So mostly tonight, I guess we're going to talk about a homeschool perspective, but any high school student who is ready can take online asynchronous classes, right?
Absolutely. And like I said, a lot of high school students can easily fit online asynchronous courses into their schedules because there is no set schedule for these courses, so they can work on them after school or during their study halls.
Right. I think the hardest thing for our public school students, if they take our online asynchronous classes, is just to understand that the dates are different.
Yes.
Spring break is not when you think it is.
Right. That's a good point.
All right, so let's talk about what homeschool students can get out of this, because the credential piece is really, really important. And when I use the word credential, and I'll use that a lot tonight, credential, I'm talking about a high school diploma or the equivalent of a high school diploma, what we would call a high school credential. And it's that some magic piece of paper or certificate or the other sort of stamp of approval that says, yes, you graduated high school or the equivalent of it in New York State. So I'm a homeschooling parent in New York State. What are my options for getting my child some kind of high school credential?
Yeah, so to the best of my knowledge, there are three pathways to obtain an officially recognized high school credential. One is by taking the GED exam, and another is to obtain a letter of completion from the district superintendent. It's a letter that states that your child has completed all the 100.10 homeschooling requirements as dictated by the New York State Education Department. And the third is to obtain the New York State High School Equivalency Diploma by taking 24 college credits.
Right. So quite a few different paths. Um, and I want to sit on something for a second when we talk about those paths. I mean, the letter from the superintendent is a really nice thing to have, right? And a test score is a great test score to have. But when a student is applying to a four-year college and they have actual college credits, that's a student sitting in the same courses, meeting the same standards, and earning the same grades as regular college students. Now the document that says your kid is probably college ready, proof that your student is college ready. Would you say that's a fair way to put it?
It absolutely is. Students following this pathway earn credits that count both as high school as well as college credits. They earn 6 credits in English language arts, 3 credits in college math, 3 in social science, 3 humanities credits, 3 natural science credits, and 6 elective credits. And when they have completed these credits, they can apply for the New York State High School Equivalency Diploma through the State Education Department.
Oh, nice. And the credits that they earn. So you've earned 24 credits here, all these classes, math, English, so on. What happens to those credits? Do they stay at GCC? Can students apply them towards a 2-year degree or take them somewhere else? What happens with that?
Absolutely. So the credits are readily transferable into a GCC associate's degree. In fact, once a student has completed the 24 credit program, they have already taken about a third to a half of the requirements for an associate's degree. They've also already completed most of their general education requirements that every freshman is required to take regardless of their major. And students can also easily transfer the credits to another 4-year institution and begin a 4-year degree program with advanced standing. And that means they can register for classes earlier than every other freshman, so they can kind of get ahead of the game. And they end up saving a lot of time and money on their 4-year degree programs.
Yeah, and again, I'll put a little personal plug in there. Like, usually I'm the person sitting here at the desk going, okay, tell me how that works again. But in this case, I had 2 students that went through it. My oldest actually graduated from GCC and moved on to RIT, and she enrolled as a freshman with junior standing.
Wow.
So she had 77 credits, and they took 51 of them.
That's amazing.
By the time she started, and she wasn't even 18 yet.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah. Like, okay, I guess this works.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my kids are not the norm. My kids were a little kind of out there. But, all right, let's talk about the money conversation. Cost, I mean, it's on every parent's mind. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what does it actually cost to enroll a student in an ACE program at GCC?
Sure. So ACE students only pay $76.30 per credit hour, which is about a third of the regular tuition rate. And additionally, ACE juniors and seniors can receive up to 2 free classes through the summer Genesee Promise Plus scholarship. So if you think about it, if a student plans it right, they end up with 30 credits by the time they're graduated from high school. And that's basically their whole first year done. Mm-hmm. And I put the numbers together, and it's about $1,800 for like your first year of college done.
Nice. That'll put some gas in your car when you go to 4-year school.
Yeah.
So, but what happens when students do hit that 24 credits?
Yeah, so when they're done with their 24 credits, they are no longer eligible for the ACE scholarship. Well, basically what we do is we give them 24 credits at that reduced tuition rate, or when they turn 19, they do age out of the program. So whichever comes first.
Right. And I do notice we have actually a question in the chat, and I think this is probably from me mentioning that I had a student who had 77 credits and 51 of them transferred to RIT.
Yeah.
And so the question is, do all credits not transfer over when going into a 4-year program? Which is, yeah, it's so everything 100 level or above should transfer to a 4-year school. The question is whether or not it applies to the degree program that you're going into. Because my child did some, and I don't want to call them experimental courses, but took some courses that were not strictly speaking related to her major.
Yeah.
Things she was interested in, and honestly, at $76 a credit hour it is roughly. The $76 a credit hour is cheaper from even buying a homeschool curriculum. So for example, British literature stands out to me because I know that's one of the things that she took that didn't exactly transfer into her major. But it was something she really wanted to take, and as a homeschool parent, I was willing to go and spend a little bit of money on a homeschool curriculum, and lo and behold, GCC has it, and it's less expensive or right on a par with going out and buying a quality homeschool curriculum. I said, go for it. And we were okay with the fact that not all the credits transferred directly into the program.
Right. And I would say that, even if it doesn't transfer in for your specific degree, I would say for the most part, they'd still transfer in as elective credit. And, you may not need, 10 elective credits, so not every credit will transfer, but I would say for the most part they would.
Right. And I think later on in the program we've got some time to talk about planning, for when you're going that far. We did plan to try and, with my second child, we planned to try and make as many credits as possible transfer, and that had a much better percentage. But it really depends on how you're planning it out, and it's always easier to work backwards.
Okay, right.
So what college you're going to, what program they want to go into. You can look at the classes that program wants, and then you can work backwards and say, okay, what does GCC have that's equivalent, that matches that framework?
Right.
And then try and fit it in the 24 credit framework.
Right. But I almost feel like that's the easy part.
Yeah.
Because, pretty much all those 24 credits are going to be your general education requirements, which everybody needs anyway.
Right.
Yep.
Especially in New York, if you're going to any kind of SUNY college, we can take those 24 credits. You get all the way up to 33 credits. We have, and this is outside the ACE program, but we have the General Education Certificate, which bundles up all those credits into a SUNY credentialed certificate, which makes them more transferable as their general elective equivalents. So it gets interesting when you're planning, right?
Sure does.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about the finish line built into the program. You hit that 24 credits and you're eligible. But when you cross the 24 credits, you're not really losing something. You're graduating. You're graduating high school.
Right.
And again, I'm going to go back to my own personal experience, and I'll be real with you. So that first child, the one with the 20-odd credits that didn't transfer, that child also had a timing issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. The paperwork did not line up because child was too young to get the 24 credit diploma, and yet child had gone through all the 24 credits. So she spent a whole year categorized as both a high school dropout and a non-matriculated college student all at the same time because the paperwork didn't line up.
Yeah.
And then at the end, once she was old enough to get that 24 credit credential, she got it. It got sorted out. She graduated. No problem. But, for families who are, a little less familiar with paperwork, how do they avoid that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And your daughter's not the only one who, is in that situation. A lot of students end up in that situation. So, the thing you have to remember is students must be 16 on or before June 30th to be eligible to apply for their diplomas on July 1st. So this means if you complete your 24 credits too soon, you will find yourself in limbo land, is what I like to call it, right? You won't be eligible for the ACE scholarship, but you also won't be eligible for financial aid because you're not matriculated, because you don't have your diploma. And that means you're going to be paying full price if you choose to continue taking courses beyond the 24 credits. Not the end of the world if you've budgeted for it. But planning and pacing are definitely important if you want to avoid the situation. And you have to remember 24 credits is only 8 classes, which can be done easily in 1 year. So my suggestion is the younger you start, the more you may want to consider only taking 1 or 2 courses per semester in the beginning, and then picking up the pace as you get closer to turning 16.
Right. Either that or planning on using something like a 529 for when you run into that situation. It's what we did with my child this week.
Absolutely.
We used her 529. We paid full price, but it worked out in the end because she got straight A's here at GCC and went to RIT and got a President's Scholarship from RIT. So, that money that we spent on 529 ended up coming back to us multiplied in that scholarship that she earned. So, but
awesome.
Obviously not a universal situation, and the better we can do at tracking our students' progress. And tracking your students' progress as a homeschool parent, that's part of your job. It's something that you have to do that's not even unique to ACE, like you're already doing that. But GCC does give you some tools to navigate that process here. So we have degree works and we have, planning spreadsheets that can help you work through that process. But you always got to keep your eyes on where your student is and how fast they're moving and how old they are, because there's the one part of the equation that we can't kind of move around and adjust a little bit.
Right. Yep.
But that's okay. All right. So let's move into the next segment. And segment 4 is called, Is My Kid Ready? So I want to spend some time on something that doesn't get talked about a lot, and that's readiness. So it's not just academic readiness. It's also content readiness and independence. And what do you want to tell parents who are wondering if their student is ready for college level work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely talk to families and, urge them that they need to understand that students are enrolling in traditional college classes alongside college students of all ages. The courses are not designed specifically for homeschoolers or minors, and they won't be treated any differently than any other traditional student enrolled at GCC. So families need to understand that they're going to need to take some responsibility for their academic progress and advocate for themselves in a college environment.
And that one can be tough. But I want to add something to that about the content pieces, because college courses can cover adult topics. And, English 101 sounds innocuous. It's English 101, right? And all of a sudden, your student is in a discussion board and they're talking about the death penalty, or they're talking about abortion, or they're talking about end-of-life decisions, because those are real conversations. It may not be the professor bringing it up, it might be one of their peers, but these conversations happen in college classrooms, and they happen in college discussion boards, and the instructor is not going to quash those because there is an A student in the room. In fact, the instructor may not even know that there's an A student in the room. And so students will share different outlooks and sometimes even personal experiences. So how do you counsel families when it comes to those kinds of topics?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'll be honest with you, I don't necessarily counsel families on how they should assess their students' readiness, but I really go out of my way to make sure they understand exactly what you said, that this is what they may find themselves in a classroom where they're discussing things that might be a little bit touchy, and might be different than what they've grown up thinking, or whatever their philosophy is in their own family. And they need to be prepared for this. And I always say, every student is different. Your kid, whether they can handle a discussion like this. And I just kind of, again, they're going to be talking about controversial topics with students of all different ages.
Right. All different ages, all different backgrounds,
Right.
all different life philosophies.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that's not really, I don't think that's a bad thing, but it's definitely something to prepare your student for, to say, you're going to go into this, you need to be ready for these kinds of conversations to happen around you, and it's okay to listen. Right? If you don't have anything to add, it's okay to listen. And then on top of that, you've got the independence piece, and that connects directly to FERPA. So FERPA is the federal privacy law. It kicks in the moment your student enrolls in college courses. Okay, FERPA also applies to K-12, but the application is radically different in college. So I was actually working at GCC when my kids were in the ACE program, and so I'd walk through the halls and I'd see a professor in the hallway and I'd be like, "Hey, how's she doing?" And I'd just get a shake of the head. Nope, can't tell you, can't talk to you, can't talk to you. Which, I mean, okay, fair. It hurts the first time.
It does. I know.
But as a parent, I'm only ever getting half the story. Like, I don't have weeks and weeks and weeks of sitting in the classroom 3 hours a week that the professor has with their conversations. And so, I try to jump in on behalf of my kid. I need a whole backstory here that I just don't even have because I'm not in the class, right? I'm not the one listening. So, could you tell us a little bit about what FERPA means practically for parents who are so used to being deeply involved in their students' education?
Yeah, for sure. This is a big topic because, like you, Loy, I was a homeschool mom and used to being very involved in my daughter's education. And then all of a sudden they enroll in college courses, and I had to kind of wean myself from being that involved in what I can't log into their accounts. Oh, okay.
No.
No. Again, FERPA laws come into effect once your student enrolls in college, and so this does mean that GCC staff and faculty were not permitted to share academic information with anyone other than the student, regardless of their age. Students can designate a proxy in their MyGCC accounts, and that does allow ACE staff to discuss some aspects of a student's academic progress with parents, but even with a proxy in place, professors and instructors are not obligated to speak directly with parents. So this means that the student themselves must initiate communication with their instructors. And I will tell you, if you are a parent out there, if you do email one of your students' instructors, you will not likely get an answer. So your student needs to learn to email them from their GCC email accounts whenever they have a question or there's an issue. And I know that that's a hard thing to get used to. I remember that with my own daughters, and initially sometimes they would write their email themselves. They would bring me the email and say, "Mom, does this sound right?" And I'd be like, "Yeah," but it had to come from them.
Right. Yeah, there's one thing that keeps coming up when a homeschool parent will call in, and I can have generic conversations with. Like, we can all have generic conversations. If you can find it on our website, okay, that may not be a good example, but if it lives somewhere on our website, I can talk to you about it because it's public information. What's going on inside the classroom, I can't talk to you about. But we'll get to that point. I'll say, okay, I can't go any further. I can't share anymore. And the parent will say something like, "Well, I'll just log into my student's email and send an email." And it's like, please don't say that.
No.
Please don't say that. Because that is literally a computer violation.
Yeah.
It's part of the agreement that you and your students signed up when you signed up for classes, that they will not share their password with anybody else, and it can result in them getting kicked out of our computer system if IT hears you saying that and recognizes that that's what you're doing. So, please don't do that.
No, please, absolutely not. And I know, again, just a personal anecdote, same thing. When my daughter was in public speaking, I was like, "Oh, can I come watch her speech?" And no, you can't. Yes. I'm like, no.
I know.
It's tough, but the whole point of this is that your student this is a perfect opportunity for your homeschooler to to segue into college, while they're still at home and have that family support.
Yeah.
So, you can still find ways to support them without having to,
do the thing.
Be in it with them 100%. And I know that's hard because I was a homeschool mom myself, but it's just how it is.
I used to say to my kids, this is a cheap way to make mistakes. Don't make the mistakes now, because when you're in four-year school and tuition is $45,000 a year, I don't want you making those same mistakes now.
Good point.
So and one of the questions that we have with student readiness and all these questions about privacy, it's not just can the student do the work, it's also can they make the call? Can they self-advocate? Can they set up an appointment with their instructor and self-advocate and say, okay, I'm struggling with this thing here, which is in itself a challenge for many students because they feel like admitting that they're struggling is going to count against them in some way, which is absolutely not true at college level. At college level, if you're struggling, your instructor wants you to reach out and say something.
Absolutely.
And we've had any number of instructors on this program who've said exactly the same thing, like, please come to my office hours, please talk to me. But, so I had one of my kids, I mentioned my youngest child was one of the youngest students ever start here at GCC, started at 10 years old, and scared to talk to the professor, scared to talk about the work. So we went home, we role played it. I played the part of the professor, and the student practiced, what they want to say. My kid was sitting there, and we went back and forth, and, I said, do you want me to do it meaner, or are you good? I could do it a little meaner. Or I could do it super nice, but, kind of going back and forth about what kind of reactions they might get, and just have them be comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? And have them be ready to make that call. And then at that time, my student was on campus, went to office hours, went and talked to the instructor, came back and said, how'd it go? Oh, it was so much easier than I thought it would be.
It always is. Yeah.
So that preparation is really, the parent's job is less about teaching and more about preparing the student to interact with all the different people that they'll meet here on campus, whether virtually or in person. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's land this plane. So a parent who's listening to this and thinking, well, I want to know more, what should they do?
Well, they can always visit the ACE webpage on the GCC website, or better yet, contact our office directly.
Okay. Do you have a direct phone number, or?
I do. So I always, when I give people my phone number, I tell them the whole phone number, right? It's the general phone number, 585-343-0055, and my extension is 6393.
Okay, and we'll put that in the description of this episode when we're done, along with your full email address.
Yep.
So that they can reach out to you by email as well. Okay. And so now I want to give you an opportunity. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you really think parents ought to know?
To be honest with you, I think the last component we spoke about with, just student readiness and communication, advocating for yourself is really almost the number one thing. So we've covered that. The only thing I will add is, it is, February 26th, right? So we will start accepting and processing new applications for the fall starting next week. And
already.
I know. Yeah, registration opens next week. So I would say the sooner the better to get started. Don't wait till the last minute, because technically, even though the deadline to apply for the fall is August 5th, we get a large volume of applications each semester, and classes fill up quickly. So the sooner you can get in, there's a lot of steps involved to getting started. One of them is placement testing.
We didn't even talk about that.
Right. Yeah, that's a whole nother topic. You've got to set up your account. You need to get used to going into my GCC. There's just a lot involved. So don't wait. Don't wait till August. If you want to start in the fall, get your application into us next month, and we'll get the ball rolling for you. And just really looking forward to working with you and your students.
So I know that you didn't bring this up, but now I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to
Okay.
put you on the spot.
Uh-oh.
Are you ready?
Maybe.
I want you to talk. Oh, I had another question. When does the fall schedule come out? The fall schedule is actually out. If you look on our website, you can see it now, but you cannot register yet. So you can look at the classes now, but registration opens on Monday the 2nd. And a question of when would a homeschooling child take the placement tests?
Ah, great question. Yeah. So again, I'm going to say the sooner the better. Because they aren't going to be able to take math or English at all until they take that placement test. And English is a foundational course. So I would say you want to get that course under your belt. So I would say the sooner the better. I've seen situations where students wait and procrastinate and put that off. They don't want to do the math, and and then what you don't want to do is, you've gotten almost to the end, you have everything done except math, and then if you haven't been doing math at home, and then you take that placement test and you don't get quite as high as you want on that test, then you have to take remedial, and it just delays everything. And again, we do have, you really don't want to wait till the last minute. If you want to get in for the fall, get your application in, get that test scheduled, because again, we see situations where people apply on August 1st, and by then the testing center's filled up, and so again, everything, I always say the sooner the better.
So if they get the testing done sometime over the summer for the fall, that's actually better.
Yeah.
And then something that people don't know is the English and math placement tests. You can take them separately.
Actually, initially you can't. You cannot break those up. Yeah, they have to all be taken at once. Yeah.
Well, that's different.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I think that changed shortly after I came into the program.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, once you have taken it, say you score fine on English, but you didn't quite like your math score. You really want to get into Algebra 3, not Algebra 2, or whatever. You do have another chance to take that math, and then you can just take the math again. You don't have to take the whole thing all over again.
And one thing that I do know, this one is absolutely certain, is that once you're a student here, you've got your student ID number. We call it your 800 number, because it starts with 800. But once you have a student ID number, and you are a student with us, you can use our tutoring center to help you with the placement test.
Oh, that's something I didn't know.
Yes, because you can go to a math tutor in the tutoring center, even if you are not currently enrolled in the math class, and say, can you help me with this problem? Now, you can't ask them to walk you through the entire task. But let's say you're out there at like a website like Khan Academy or the College Board practice test, because there are practice tests out there for the active placer. So you're out there doing the practice test, or you're doing Khan Academy, and you're struggling with a particular problem. You can make an appointment with one of our tutors, online or in person, to go over that problem and just say, I'm working on the placement exam, can you help me with this? And they will help you.
Wow, I just learned something. I always thought that the tutoring center, you could only go for, like, if you're in a math class, you can go get a math tutor.
No. So because that opened up, because we'll have students who are in like biology class or chemistry class, and they're struggling with those classes. But it's not the biology or the chemistry they're struggling with. They're struggling with the math.
Yeah.
Because chemistry is how much math? Like 50% math?
Yeah, a lot.
So it opened up. If you are a student with a student ID, you can get help from a math tutor, you can get help from a writing tutor, and you can work on some of those skills. Yeah.
Well, I am going to start telling all of my new applicants that they can get a tutor to prepare for that placement test. That's amazing.
And again, they've got to do some work on their own. So they're out there working on the practice exam, or working on, for those of you who have never seen Khan Academy, I'm not endorsing it as the be-all end-all, but it's a good online website where you can go practice your math skills and learn some math skills. and you're struggling with a specific problem, you can bring that problem right up to the tutoring center and say, please, can you help me with this? Yep.
That's awesome.
Which is, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. So, now I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, go ahead.
I haven't forgotten.
You're saving the best for last, huh?
Yes, I want you to tell us about the Ace of Clubs.
Oh, my favorite topic. The Ace of Clubs is awesome. The Ace of Clubs is a brand new club that just started we became official at the end of August last year, 2025. It actually started because one of our youngest students approached me and said, I want to start a club for the homeschoolers. And I said, I've been waiting for a student to approach me about this. Let's do it. And so, we started as an interest group. There was an immediate interest because I think there's a real need for this. I think as homeschool, we all know homeschooling can sometimes be isolating. And so it has been an incredible place for the GCC homeschoolers to connect and just enjoy, all kinds of things. We do games, we have movie nights, we have different instructors come in and talk about personal finance. What else? Personal finance. We do art projects. We've had different guest speakers every time, and it's just, and I don't know. It's very popular. We have T-shirts designed by one of our club members, and it has become one of the highlights of my job here because I'm connecting with my students more this way.
Well, it's a big thing when you have merch, right?
Yeah.
You have merch.
Yes.
So, and I was actually a guest on one of your online programs where you did an online orientation, and that was really, really, really nice.
Yeah.
For students to kind of guide other students through the onboarding process and say, okay, here, I've been through this. Let me talk to you about what it's like. And I was there with a couple other instructors. Right?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, we had 11 guest speakers, and the A students spoke themselves about their own personal experiences, and
yeah. So any student who is an A student, technically any student who is a student at GCC can join those clubs, but any A student can join those clubs and connect both online and in person with other students like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the club, we make it very accessible to the online students because, like I said, the majority of homeschoolers are distance learners. So every meeting is accessible both online as well as in person.
Nice. Well, this has been a great conversation, and thank you for the questions in the chat. And I'm glad that we were able to answer them, and I'm glad that you were able to come. So, Stephanie Rindell, ACE Program Specialist at Genesee Community College, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and to the parents listening, your student might be public school, they might be homeschooled, they might be somewhere else, but there might be a path to college credit that's available right now, and that you don't even know about yet. So, check out GCC's website, look at the Accelerated College Enrollment programs, reach out to Stephanie, ask the questions, right? That's what she's here for. And speaking of here, we and our podcast, we are here every Thursday night at 7 p.m. on YouTube. Our channel is at GCC Online Learning-NY. That's our official YouTube channel. And if you subscribe, you get to ask questions in the chat, and we'll try and answer them live. And now I get to share with you our podcast mantra. We have a mantra for our podcast that I would share at the end.
All right.
Our mantra is progress, not perfection.
I love it.
Awesome.